Caitlin Clark was built as the future, the rising star who would take the WNBA to new heights, but no one mentioned that the league itself might stand in her way. It didn't take long, just a few games, for Caitlin to go from the league's golden girl to a star. Many WNBA fans are criticizing the referee problem, saying that the referees literally turned their backs on her. She seems to be hunted every game, and she must deal with physicality that no other player in the league is dealing with. Target on the court. It's shocking that Caitlin Clark will be out for at least 2 weeks due to a quad injury and that Fowler is cheating. Caitlin Clark is the reason why the Fever and the WNBA rookie are interested in each other. She was the target of multiple intentional fouls, and it wasn't just the opposing teams pursuing her. This wasn't just a normal rookie adjustment phase. What we witnessed felt calculated and much more threatening. Following every game, WNBA players, fans, and coaches are all griping about Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark was beaten, knocked down, pushed around, and forced to fight through a storm of silence from the whistle in game after game. The referees, who are supposed to keep things fair, watched it happen like background actors in a bad play. What began as the occasional missed call turned into a full-blown pattern, with obvious fouls ignored while Clark hit the floor. If you're done remaining silent, drop a Protect CC in the comments. Delline's head coach Stephanie White was complaining. She will be out for at least 2 weeks after suffering a quad strain. Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham went to the officials and tried to get an explanation of what had happened, but the official flatly refused them. This wasn't just bad luck anymore. Then it happened. Everyone was afraid that Caitlin Clark was benched with a quad injury. Suddenly, fans started rewinding the tape. Every hard hit that was ignored, every shove that went uncalled, and every desperate look she shot at the referees in the hopes that they would finally blow the whistle began to feel more planned. And just as the outcry peaked, new reports surfaced revealing how faulty and possibly corrupt the league's officiating system is. This is a WNBA problem. And as more people watch this league, the problem gets worse. The officiating seems to be a mystery, and it turns out that a surprising number of WNBA referees were taken directly from, you guessed it, high school level games. They aren't even making calls based on their own judgment. Instead, a shadow committee behind the scenes is composed of referees are not listening to the GMS coaches and league insiders who are deciding how physically intense the game should be. They are not listening to the coaches, the players, the fans, or their stakeholders. For this reason, I keep saying that nothing will change until the mindset and whoever is in charge of all of this, the stakeholders, governance, and Caitlin Clark, are all in the crossfire where profit, pride, and power all crash together. Now, after weeks of growing backlash, viral videos are blazing on social media, and even with legal threats looming and rumors of biased officiating swirling, the league's biggest moneymaker could quickly turn into its biggest problem unless coaches and players take immediate action. If this injury does anything, it should serve as a wake-up call to the WNBA, Players Association, and team owners that all this fanfare, interest, and newly discovered attention on the league can vanish overnight. And here's the big question. How far is the WNBA willing to go to silence the very star they've been profiting from, Caitlin Clark's rough and tumble from day one? But I'm not surprised that she's already injured 2 weeks into the season. Caitlin Clark has never shied away from a challenge. At Iowa, she broke attendance records, packed arenas, and made women's basketball a must-watch sport on television. When she joined the WNBA, fans weren't just anticipating spectacular plays, they were counting on her to provide the kind of energy and star power the league sorely needed. 2024 was a year of unprecedented growth in WNBA viewership, a significant amount of which can be attributed to Caitlin Clark, who took the basketball world by storm after an all-time college career, who had appeared in 18-5 consecutive games between her career at Iowa and her time with the Indiana Fever. 139 games with the Iowa Hawkeyes. She never missed one. For a brief moment, it looked like everything was clicking. Crowds swelled, TV ratings soared to new heights. But instead of welcoming Clark with open arms, she faced elbows, cold stares, and outright hostility right from the start. Kane Clark, somebody who was responsible for 26. Every game felt like a battle from the moment Caitlin Clark stepped onto the professional court. Defenders weren't just protecting her, they were treating it like UFC night. She faced constant full-court pressure, off-ball fouls, and physical contact more appropriate for a rugby match than a basketball game, and the referees weren't there. 5 of all WNBA economic activity from the previous season, including revenue from merchandise, ticket sales, and television, included Caitlin Clark's absence for at least 2 weeks. The referees simply exposed her hand so badly, bro, the world was watching how bad the cause was, and they didn't care at all. They were going to get their issue off against the Fever no matter what. And I'm here to tell you that's exactly what happened. The league continued to use the same old excuse against Caitlin Clark, and she just needs to adjust. She saw hits that would have drawn whistles for any other star, but they ignored them repeatedly when it came to Clark.
People are complaining because they haven't watched the WNBA before. And these are just new fans who don't understand, but there's obviously a problem. This wasn't just a setback. It was a harsh blow to the Indiana Fever and a huge loss for the entire WNBA. Why is Caitlin Clark the only star expected to toughen up while everyone else gets treated like royalty? Then came the injury. After putting in a ton of minutes, often 35 or more per game, Clark was sidelined for at least 2 weeks due to a left quad strain. Caitlin Clark, a guard for the Indiana Fever, hurt her left quadriceps and will be out for at least 2 weeks. This wasn't some unfortunate turn of events. Rather, it was a disaster that could have been prevented. What hurts even more is the league's utter silence about the beatings Caitlin Clark had received. No statements or apologies were offered, just another name added to the injury. It felt like a random injury, the result of neglect and the league's failure to protect the one player keeping the spotlight alive. This wasn't just any player, though. She was the face of the WNBA's future. She was benched not because she couldn't handle the pressure, but rather because the system that was supposed to protect her chose to ignore it. This is the Caitlin Clark disrespect, and by that I mean that you have someone who is clearly the most popular basketball player and someone who, in my opinion, is among the top 5 most popular athletes in the United States of America. All right, you have this athlete in a league that no one has been watching, never made a profit, and your system is broken against that team. Kelsey Mitchell said, even if there is an injury, hopefully it's just a little nagging thing, and again, take care of your body and just make sure you... Those on the court were giving her clues, and Clark's teammate subtly encouraged her to listen to her body and acknowledge that Caitlin was overcoming pain that most players would never ignore. Fans caught this on camera, and media outlets ran stories. Now, the big question is why the league's brightest star was left so vulnerable, and who stands to gain from her absence. A closer look at WNBA officiating reveals a startling reality. The referees aren't just inexperienced, many are seriously underqualified. Some have entered the WNBA straight out of high school, skipping necessary steps like college leagues or the NBA league. These aren't seasoned professionals with years of experience. They frequently learn on the job during the league's most intense and high-pressure matchups. This glaring lack of experience is most evident when it comes to managing the game around Caitlin Clark, the league's most talked about star. They don't discuss it here, which is why I don't want us to personally criticize some of these referees. I believe they're doing their jobs if they're hiring referees who essentially have no experience other than high school refereeing jobs and a stint in the G League. I learned and reaffirmed that not much will change, but the situation goes even deeper. These referees aren't just making decisions based on their own judgment. Behind the scenes, a competition committee is in charge of determining how games should be officiated. Referees are instructed on how much physicality to allow, which fouls to prioritize, and what style of play fits the league's image. Regardless of what is actually fair on the court, there is a committee for stakeholders, coaches, governors, and general managers that decides what style of basketball they want to allow. And the referees are adhering to that law Caitlin Clark's league has confirmed in interviews. It took us halfway through the season this year for Stephanie White to say, "I've had enough. I thought she got fouled." You know, I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. Her electrifying style clashes with the slower, more physical approach the committee seems to prefer. Her arrival upsets the league's carefully managed balance. She brings a faster pace, draws unmatched media buzz, and shines a light that unsettles the old guard. Games hits that would immediately raise red flags in the NBA or even college basketball are dismissed here. There are no calls, no accountability, just a deafening silence. When Caitlin asks the referees for clarification, they respond with cold indifference. This isn't paranoia, rather, it's blatant systemic bias. Look at what's happening right now. A WNBA referee is ignoring Caitlin Clark, who has a fever. It's terrible. Time and again, Clark takes hard hits that go unnoticed, while the slightest touch on her results in an instant foul call. Coach Stephanie White, "I thought you were fouled. You know, I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes. The disrespect for our team right now has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing." She tried to challenge one of these calls during a crucial game, but was blocked by a little-known rule because she didn't have a full timeout, just a reset. The officials remained safe, but Clark received no such mercy. Beyond simple errors, this exposes a flawed system where referees answer to hidden agendas rather than the fairness or integrity of the game. Caitlin Clark is up against a system that is more concerned with controlling the narrative than safeguarding its most valuable player. The league's only draw and the only player who can sell tickets could be out for a long time. What the hell are you going to do now? The more information that comes to light, the more obvious the truth becomes. This officiating crisis isn't an error, it's intentional. The issue, but the outcry is only getting louder. Players, coaches, and analysts nationwide are criticizing the subpar officiating, with Caitlin Clark caught in the middle. This isn't about preferential treatment. Rather, it's a call for justice and fairness on the court in that particular situation. I can appreciate the frustration that, in my opinion, comes with officiating, but listen, this is not exclusive to the WNBA when referees consistently overlook clear fouls against a star who is setting records and garnering a lot of attention. One of the most talked about moments occurred during the Fever's game against the Liberty. With the game on the line, Clark drove hard to the basket and was flagrantly fouled by Natasha Cloud. The contact was obvious, as evidenced by every replay angle, but the whistle never blew and the game ended abruptly. All right, when that foul occurred, CBS said she had a challenge left, but it didn't matter because Stephanie White couldn't contest that call on Lexi Hall, which resulted in Sabrina Ionescu's game-winning free throws. My problem with that is that it would have been nice if the CBS commentators hadn't even mentioned the challenge. Clark and her teammates went straight to the referees and demanded answers, but they received none. The officials just left, sending a strong message to everyone watching, not just Clark, that the whistle doesn't blow equally for everyone. This wasn't an isolated incident. Earlier, Coach Stephanie White tried to contest a questionable foul on Lexi Hall, but she didn't have a full timeout left under league rules, prevented her from posing the challenge. Many fans who were not aware of this rule believed that White had erred, but in fact she was trapped by a system that shields officials from accountability. As an aside, it's not just the Indiana Fever. I know it's the biggest story this week. Brittany Griner left a sideline interview to yell at the referees, leaving the players exposed while the referees hid behind technical loopholes. The annoyance has now spread far beyond Indiana, as she even interrupted a live halftime interview to vehemently criticize the force. The WNBA appears to dismiss these concerns as normal growing pains from fans unfamiliar with the league's physical nature, but that justification is insufficient. This isn't about toughness or physicality, rather it's about inconsistent enforcement. Every time Caitlin Clark takes the court, both players and coaches are pointing out that the rules are applied unevenly, disrupting the flow and integrity of the game. Other coaches have publicly denounced the referees as disrespectful during post-game interviews. In the Liberty game, Caitlin Clark's shots were all very short, indicating that she wasn't getting off and that she was having trouble making those threes. A lot of explosiveness from those three-point shots comes from your leg. Now sidelined with a quad injury, Caitlin Clark has become the symbol of a controversy that won't go away. It feels like the rule book flips. She's officiated differently, faces harsher physical play, and when she fights through it all, the officials turn a blind eye until her body finally fails. Clark never asked for favors. She only demanded the fair treatment that every athlete deserves. However, the higher she rises, the more resistance she encounters, not only from rivals, but also from the very system that is supposed to protect her. The resistance isn't waning. Rather, it's getting stronger because the league seriously underestimated the force she represents. She played in 185 straight games between her career at Iowa and her time with the Indiana Fever, and she never missed one of the 139 games she played for the Iowa Hawkeyes. The WNBA had a unique opportunity to reshape its future around a once-in-a-generation star, Caitlin Clark. She didn't just enter the league, she ignited it. She packed arenas, smashed TV ratings, and brought in a wave of new supporters that were hungry for the game. However, rather than rising with her, the league appears to be crumbling under pressure, clinging to antiquated power plays and ignoring a stark reality. The fans saw everything, and they watched her being knocked down without facing any repercussions. These fans are not just frustrated, they are taking action. Legal challenges are growing, media investigations are getting more intense, and what was once whispered behind closed doors is now front-page news. The system cracks are visible to everyone, but at the same time it seemed like the Fever were on the wrong end of some whistles in this game, and it's been that way for a good portion of the season. They watched officials huddle and then leave without doing anything. They also saw the scoreboard change, not because the better team won, but because someone wearing a referee's uniform chose to ignore the situation. The WNBA's accountability system has been trapped in a closed loop for far too long. Referees answer to committees, which in turn answer to stakeholders, and the public is left without a true voice. However, the spotlight Caitlin Clark brought to the league broke that cycle. She never asked for controversy or wanted to be the face of a movement, but when the whistle stopped blowing and the hits kept coming, the system was broken.
What's happening to Caitlin Clark sends a chilling message to every rising star and every young girl watching from the stands. Even if you set records or rewrite history, the system might still punish you for shining too brightly. It's not just unfair, it's unsustainable. A league that can't defend its stars risks losing them. The league pushed her into that role, and now every unfair call, questionable foul against her, and critical no-call fans see add fuel to a fire that is rapidly spreading. This issue isn't going away, and Caitlin Clark's supporters won't let it go. The media won't back down, and the truth is already out there. The real question now is, will the league step up before it's too late? Leave a comment below to protect CC and show your support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Click the video on the screen and we'll see you. One missed foul at a time. If the WNBA doesn't take a close look at its officiating leadership and the hidden forces driving the game, lawsuits might just be the beginning. In the upcoming